noticed that every time a white person would bring their newborn to work to show everybody their baby never had the ability to. Yeah, that's true. The beginning, they do wear goggles. They'll be out of here. They'll be out of here soon enough. They're going fast. You know, the drugs is really kicking their ass. This is why they're acting so crazy. Yeah, yeah. A lot of babies can form, say words. My son was talking very young too. You know, and I remember it was a woman that was in the hospital with me, and she had a daughter. And my son was walking all around, and her daughter was still on the floor crawling, and they were the same exact age. They were the same age, and my son was walking, and her daughter was still crawling. So that just go to show you, yeah, we. Mm-hmm. Oh, black babies are beautiful. I love their curly hair. Oh, that curly hair is off the hook. Mm-hmm. Oh, black babies are beautiful. I love their curly hair. Oh, that curly hair is off the hook. Oh yeah. My son was I back in the day, I had a VCR, and my son knew how to use the VCR when he was 1. I was letting him put the videotapes in and take them out. He was doing all that on his own. You know, in the beginning, he would grab the remote and I would stop him, but he was grabbing it so often. I said, well, you know what? Let me just teach him how to use it. If you teach a child how to, oh yeah, my son was I back in the day, I had a VCR, and my son knew how to use the VCR when he was 1. I was letting him put the videotapes in and take them out. He was doing all that on his own. You know, in the beginning, he would grab the remote and I would stop him, but he was grabbing it so often. I said, well, you know what? Let me just teach him how to use it. If you teach a child how to use something, they won't destroy it. They won't mess it up. So I start showing him how to change the channels. He would be sitting there with his little tiny hands. He would know how to change the TV, turn it on, turn it off. He knew how to do all of that. He was doing that. He knew how to turn on and watch his little favorite shows. Yeah, when he was 1 years old, I showed him how to use the remote, and he knew how to turn the TV on and off, change the channels. He did all that stuff. Hey, and I realized if I would show him how to do something or how to use something, yeah, I didn't really like them around him though. Our kids always catch on fast, Annie K. That's one thing. They catch on fast. You'd be amazed when you show. Our kids always catch on fast, Annie K. That's one thing. They catch on fast. You'd be amazed when you show them something, and sometimes you can show them one time and they got it. You can show them one time. That's how smart and advanced they are. It's not until they start going to school that's when everything changes, because that's when they get their first hit of racism, unfortunately. You know what, True Royal, that is so true. My son couldn't wait to go to the bathroom. He couldn't wait. He couldn't wait to start going to the bathroom. And I didn't even, it didn't, he was very easy to potty train, very easy. and then he would get up in the middle of the night and he would go all by himself. I think, and sometimes you can show them one time and they got it. You can show them one time. That's how smart and advanced they are. It's not until they start going to school that's when everything changes, because that's when they get their first hit of racism, unfortunately. You know what, True Royal, that is so true. My son couldn't wait to go to the bathroom. He couldn't wait. He couldn't wait to start going to the bathroom. And I didn't even, it didn't, he was very easy to potty train, very easy. And then he would get up in the middle of the night and he would go all by himself. I think that I only had to buy, because the pull-ups, I think I only had to buy a pack of pull-ups for like 2 weeks. After 2 weeks, he wasn't even wearing them anymore. He was wearing regular underwear. I only had to buy, because the pull-ups, I think I only had to buy a pack of pull-ups for like 2 weeks. After 2 weeks, he wasn't even wearing them anymore. He was wearing regular underwear. He wasn't wearing the pull-ups long at all. He was out of those in no time. Oh, wow. Golden black. Oh, that's funny. Tough time breaking her out of it. I remember one time she was playing outside and she came in wet. And I said, "Why didn't you just come in and use the bathroom?" You know what she said? "I didn't want to stop playing." I was like, "What? Girl, you better get your ass in here and go to the bathroom." That's true, Lord Mall. When my last dog that I had him for 19 years. When I brought him home, he was paper trained. And then I had to get him used to going outside all the time. And he caught on pretty quickly. It wasn't too bad. Tough time breaking her out of it. I remember one time she was playing outside and she came in wet. And I said, "Why didn't you just come in and use the bathroom?" You know what she said? "I didn't want to stop playing." I was like, "What? Girl, you better get your ass in here and go to the bathroom." That's true, Lord Mall. When my last dog that I had him for 19 years. When I brought him home, he was paper trained. And then I had to get him used to going outside all the time. And he caught on pretty quickly. It wasn't too bad. Cap, you crazy. Yeah, yeah. A lot of black babies do walk young. Like, I was 8 months, and I think my brother was maybe like 9 or 10 months, but we got up and walked. Cap, you crazy. Yeah, yeah. A lot of black babies do walk young. Like I was 8 months, and I think my brother was maybe like 9 or 10 months, but we got up and walked. It didn't take us that long. In fact, my mom said I became uninterested in the ball, and she was surprised, when I went to the training cup. But she said I would just start leaving my bottle anywhere in the house, and she was like, well, I guess you're not interested in using that anymore. And she switched. Giving me that for? I don't want that. She said she just gave it to me to see what I would do. And she said after I was on the, just drinking from a cup for about a month, she went and got the bottle and put it in my hand. And I looked at her like she was crazy. And I put the bottle back in my mother's hand. Giving me that for? I don't want that. She said she just gave it to me to see what I would do. And she said after I was on the, just drinking from a cup for about a month, she went and got the bottle and put it in my hand. And I looked at her like she was crazy. And I put the bottle back in my mother's hand. Yeah. Yeah. And it's not hard to train your pet to use the bathroom either. You'd be surprised how quickly they catch on. His breath of life. That's why they're so damn evil. Yeah, the bottles, that was actually their creation because they didn't like to breastfeed their babies. But we always breastfed, our babies were always breastfed. We never had any issue with breastfeeding our babies at all. That's why they're not a spiritual people at all. Oh, I wouldn't doubt it. They always use drugs. Always. All right, y'all. It was really a pleasure getting together. I'm going to go ahead and upload this video. So if you want to watch it again, or if somebody missed this live stream, you'll be able to see it again. And those of you that have supported me on Patreon and GoFundMe, thank you for all of the help. I do deeply appreciate it. And that's why each and every day when I put my videos out, I try to do my absolute best for you, and I will continue to do so. And on that note, I want to say shalom, family, and you all have a wonderful night. Peace. Ladies and gentlemen, this is an article that kindly remind you that Black people to this day are still going to jail
for drug possession. But for these white addicts, they want to set up drug court so they can divert their drug possession sentence to treatment. That's the whole purpose of drug courts, ladies and gentlemen, to keep the criminal charges off of them and keep them out of prison. So when you hear them talking about drug court, that's what drug court is for. That's why they want drug court to be something separate and not part of criminal court. But when black people are picked up for marijuana and all these other drugs they're caught with, it's criminal court. For white addicts that are caught with drugs, it's drug court for them. And they get an opportunity to go to treatment instead of jail. See, they are still playing a lot of games through the legal system with the black community. And this is one of the ways they're doing it. All right, back to the article. In its final report, the Opioid Commission called on Congress and Trump administration to take more 50 specific steps, it said, would result in expanded treatment, stronger prevention, and saved lives. Our people are dying. 175 a day, every day, are dying in the United States from this plague. New Jersey Governor Chris Christie, chairman of the Opioid Commission, said it's unacceptable not to step up to fight and do everything that's need to be done to stop the dying and stop the suffering. That's amazing. They weren't interested in any of those things for the black community during the crack epidemic. It was jail for everybody. Whether federal policymakers will act on the Commission's 131-page report, particularly some of its more expensive and contentious proposals, remain to be seen. And some advocates said the Commission's recommendation, while important, would not do enough to close a huge treatment gap for Americans in desperate need. So they're in desperate need, but crack addicts from the 80s and 90s are still in jail, did not get to go to drug court, did not get offered treatment, okay? Didn't get no sentences for drug possessions diverted. They're still sitting there. And because of the 3 strikes, you're out, many of them are in there for the rest of their lives, ladies and gentlemen. And there's a lot of them in there. That's why at the end of his term, President Obama was trying to get some of them out, because there are scores and scores of our people still sitting in prison from the 80s and 90s crack epidemic, still sitting there. And nobody's doing a damn thing to get them out, but they are steady trying to do anything in their power to keep charges off of these opioid, heroin, meth heads that are out here. Unbelievable. While the report recommends some positive steps forward, it starves the country from the real resources it needs to save American lives, said Chuck Ngola, a senior policy analyst with the National Council for Behavioral Health. If there is no treatment available for Americans, how are we going to cure the plague? You're not. You're not. You see, something like this should have been set up maybe about 15 years ago. They might have had a chance of turning things around. You're now 20 years into this, and you got so many millions of people on these drugs, it's impossible to get it under control now. That's why I keep telling y'all it's not going anywhere. I don't care what they do at this point. It's never going to work. The Commission's report did not include a price tag for its menu of recommendations. While it called for more resources for everything from research to treatment, it did not endorse specific dollar amounts for those efforts. Well, Trump already said no new money. No new money. The Commission called for 56 specific policy changes, including creating uniform block grants for all federal opioid and substance abuse funding, making it easier for states to navigate the multiple grant programs currently available across several federal agencies, requiring healthcare providers to complete an educational program on opioids before they can renew their federal prescriber license, requiring states to share data from their prescription drug monitoring system as a condition of receiving certain federal money for those initiatives, establishing federal drug courts in all 93 jurisdictional districts across the country so those arrested for possession can be diverted to treatment instead of prison, giving the Department of Labor more power to crack down on insurance companies that discriminate against those with substance disorders. So they're going to force the insurance companies to take these junkies. That's what they're going to do. And believe me, read more into that. What it's going to also do is open the door for making employers hire these people. And this is all going to carry over into a lot of other things. I wouldn't be surprised if it also cracked down on insurance companies that refuse to insure these junkies. It's going to be all kinds of perks for these addicts since they are caucasoids. Just spending money won't be enough, Christie said. Adding the federal funding must be directed to programs that have been proven effective. Now it's incumbent upon Congress to step up and give the administration the resources it needs to combat the plague, Christie added. Trump created the Opioid Commission in March, and he has repeatedly promised to make the opioid plague a top priority of his presidency. Last week, Trump declared the opioid plague a public health emergency, a significant move, but one that fell short of the more sweeping state of national emergency the Opioid Commission had called for in July. There's a lot of people that are totally pissed at Trump for declaring this a public emergency. I have read so many articles, man. There's a lot of mad people out here. During Wednesday's final meeting of Opioid Commission, Christie lauded Trump for taking that step and said he was confident the president would move full speed ahead with the rest of the panel's recommendation. No, he won't. There will be fits and starts, and there will be moments of impatience, Christie said. But he added, never mind, I'm going over that. I don't know if you hear all that mess. Has nothing to do with anything. Earlier this month, Trump's pick for drug czar withdrew his nomination after a damaging news report detailed his role in weakening law enforcement powers to crack down on drug distribution, drug distributors. And in September, Trump's Health and Human Services Secretary resigned amid a firestorm over his use of taxpayer-funded charter planes for his travel. In Congress, several lawmakers welcomed the commission report and said they would look for ways to act quickly on key recommendations. But Republicans, who control both the House and Senate, are focused on tax reform and other pressing legislative business, and it is not clear if they will make this a priority. They won't. They would rather create tax cuts for rich people that don't need any money and ignore everybody else. That's exactly how they've been running this government. Christie and others said it would be okay. So Christie is pretty much saying he's counting on them looking at the report and following through on the recommendations, but I can tell you they're not going to do it. We are dealing with a brutal beast, said Massachusetts Charlie Baker, a commission member. We need to follow through and be as aggressive as addiction is. Well, good luck with that, Charlie. Sorry, Charlie, I just don't believe they're going to do anything big. Especially Trump already said he is not throwing any new money at this plague that's going on out here. So, no matter what they do, ladies and gentlemen, this is never going to work. You know, Trump has to do something because he ran his mouth on the campaign trail. But I think Trump knows this shit ain't going to work. But tell me what you think, ladies and gentlemen. Please leave your comment and subscribe. And if you can, hit that notification button. Please do. Peace, family.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, the police departments are now trying to get the residents to snitch on the drug dealers that are around them. And they're offering $500 in Warren. Warren offers $500 to residents to snitch on drug dealers. Okay, so what happens if that drug dealer or people associated with that drug dealer find out you snitched on them? Your life is over. Okay, for $500. And I don't trust anything that a cop says is confidential. I really don't. All right. Warren residents who tell police about drug dealers can receive $500 for information leading to arrest, the city announced Wednesday. The program means all Warren residents will be the eyes and ears in our war against drug pushers. Warren Mayor Jim Faust said in a news release, the program called People Against Illegal Drugs, PAID, of all things, right, offers rewards for confidential tips and cash rewards determined case by case. The information must lead to a search warrant and arrests involving illegal drug sales from a Warren resident, according to the news release. I don't trust cops. So why would I trust that they would keep my name confidential if I did tell you who a dealer was? Okay, moving on. Warren, Michigan, third largest city with an estimated 134,000 residents, went from 8 heroin deaths in 2015 to 32 in 2016. A 400% increase, Faust told the Free Press. This year, the number already reached 32 in August. I call Warren kind of ground zero when it comes to the opiate and heroin plague, he said. My position is that heroin is an illness, not a crime. That's why you're not going to resolve the issue. That's why you're not going to resolve it. He said that with Narcan, a drug that can reduce the effects of heroin overdoses, now issued to police officer, the city has been able to help save people's lives. People with a heroin addiction are encouraged to seek help at Warren police stations where they can be connected with counselors, Faust said. Meanwhile, he said police are pushing the people selling the drugs, or pursuing the people selling the drugs, people with tips, and it just gives you the hotline number. I'm not going to get into that. Okay. So once again, no, to me, if you want to snitch on your local drug dealer, go ahead, but $500 is not worth me losing my life over. And number two, like I said, I don't trust that cops will keep anything confidential. I really don't. I really don't. I don't trust them at all. But tell me what you think, ladies and gentlemen. Please leave your comment and subscribe. And if you can donate to my channel, please do. Peace, family. This is an article that came out October 6, 2017. Opioid Crisis Prevention Court is a new kind of drug court program looking to stop people from dying. So, ladies and gentlemen, they didn't have this during the crack epidemic. They only had criminal court. You went to court, you went to jail, period. Now they have come up with all these new kinds of courts. Now they have like a separate drug court for these addicts. So in exchange for going for treatment, they don't have to go to jail. And in many cases, if they complete the treatment program, all charges of their crime dropped. So this is another reason why the crime statistics in America will never, ever be correct. Numbers will always be off because of this and other things, slap on the wrist that they get that we don't get. So now they come up with all these new ways and all types of programs and drug courts to keep them out of prison. Don't recall them doing this during the crack epidemic. In fact, there's people from the crack epidemic still sitting in prison. And they never did any crimes. It was just a crime to themselves. Non-violent drug crime, but they're still sitting in there. Drug court is a common diversion program across the nation that attempts to keep non-violent drug addicts charged with crimes by placing them in a supervised treatment program in lieu of the traditional justice system. See how they come up with all these things just for them? Oh boy. In exchange for successful completing the program, participants can often get a reduced sentence or have charges dismissed entirely. So they committed to crime, but it'll probably be knocked down to a misdemeanor or it's erased altogether. The city of Buffalo, New York, has a new experimental drug court program aimed specifically at opioid addicts. NPR reports that the Buffalo program, which is overseen by Judge Craig Hanna, is the first of its kind in the country. Opioid Crisis Intervention Court prioritized treatment over criminal prosecution. Isn't that amazing? It was criminal prosecution first for crack addicts. Right now, we're trying to save them. We're trying to save their life, Hannah told NPR. I want them to have another sunset, another time with their family, to see another Christmas. Yeah, whatever. This is why I don't feel any sympathy for these people, because see, when it's their time to be a big junkie, now all the rules have to change. Hannah's program differs from other drug court programs in that if a defendant expresses a desire to help in kicking his or her opioid or heroin addiction, the court defer so in other words, as long as they stand in court and express their desire to get off the drug, the court will accommodate them. This is bullshit, y'all. I'm sorry. This is straight bullshit. Okay, right from arraignment, we put the clock on hold. We turn off the court reporter, everything off the record. So they get to talk off the record. Oh my, we're talking about getting you help, Hannah said. And once we get you help and you stabilize and get you stabilized, we put the criminal case back on the calendar. So once they express they want to go to rehab, everything comes to a standstill until they're done with rehab, and then they go back to the case and they have to return back to court. And I guess at that time it either gets reduced or thrown out altogether. Wow. While treatment is also a component of traditional drug court programs, it often takes weeks or longer to get the defendant enrolled in an inpatient treatment or detox program that could help them get sober, because a delay in treatment can prove fatal for those addicted to opioids. Time is of the essence. NPR reports that Erie County, which includes Buffalo, is on track to have the highest opioid overdose death total in its history. Wow. The county averages just over one overdose per day. John Flynn, the district attorney for Erie County, told NPR, "We couldn't wait 3 or 4 weeks until we got the individual into a treatment program or plan, because they didn't get it right away. They're going back out on the streets, shoot up fentanyl, and dying." In Hannah's program, participants go through 30 days of inpatient detox, followed by 30 days of outpatient treatment. They have to appear in Hannah's courtroom at 11 a.m. each day to check in with him and have a one-on-one talk. If they fail to show up for that 11 a.m. check-in, Hannah issues an arrest warrant. So the program also includes regular random drug testing and an 8 p.m. nightly curfew, when participants have to check in with a court staffer and let them know their location. One-on-one and group counseling is also part of the program. Hannah's program was created in May with a $300,000 grant from the U.S. Justice Department. While it's too soon to draw conclusions about its success, the preliminary numbers show that it may be onto something. You know, it's anything just so these white drug addicts don't have to go to jail. That's what this is. They'll do anything to keep them out. But, you know, they didn't go above and beyond for crack addicts. Of the roughly 140 defendants who have participated in the program so far, only 4 have washed out. Both the National Association of Drug Court Professionals and the Bureau of Justice see the program as promising, especially the intermediate treatment aspect of it. Christopher Deutsch, who is with NADCP, told NPR, "This fast tracking is really unique and generating a lot of interest out there." Bureau of Justice Policy Advisor Gregory Terrain agreed. "That's a big piece of it. That's very new." In the meantime, Judge Hannah is acting as a champion and a cheerleader for everyone who comes through his program. He told NPR, "I always tell everyone we play by Vegas rules. What happens here stays here. You tell me what's happening. We're not going to charge you with new charges. We're going to give you the help you need, because we know that this is an addiction." Okay, so when they commit a crime, it's not really a crime, y'all, it's an addiction. "But we can't help you," Hannah added, "until you're honest with yourself." So look at all the chances and opportunities these people get that was never allotted to the Black community during the crack epidemic. This is just amazing. But tell me what you think, ladies and gentlemen. My stomach is turning. Please leave your comment and subscribe. And if you can donate to my channel, please do. Peace, family. Ladies and gentlemen, this is an article that just came out in Life Science, October 6, 2017. San Diego hepatitis A issue is still spreading, everybody. They are not getting it under control. Now, over my last few videos that I did on this subject, what they did was put these hand washing machines on the street. But of course, it's not enough. You know, they're going to have to try to find a way to clean the streets up and let these people shower. I'm serious. I think the hand washing is not enough. I mean, what's the point in hand washing if the rest of your body is completely filthy? You know, it's got to go. Or you're wearing dirty clothes because you're homeless. You know, how do you get it under control? Hepatitis A spreads through San Diego. Why is it so hard to stop? San Diego, more than 480 people have become infected with hepatitis A over the past 10 months, and a large outbreak of the illness in California in decades. But why is it so hard to stop? About 20 new cases of hepatitis A per week have been reported during this outbreak. Dr. Eric McDonald, director of San Diego County's Epidemiology and Immunization Services Branch, said at a news conference here yesterday, October 5th. Part of an infectious disease conference call, ID Week 2017, most of the hepatitis A cases have been among people who are homeless or use illegal drugs or have a close contact with those populations. Of the 481 people who have been infected, 337, 70%, have been hospitalized, and 17 have died, officials said. Dr. Monique Foster of the Center for Disease Control and Prevention's Division of Viral Hepatitis says it is not uncommon for large hepatitis A outbreaks like this to last a long time, around 1 or 2 years before they are completely halted. You know, the downside is, you know, these homeless people, sometimes they don't stay in the same place for a long time. So it's easy for them to branch out in other areas, and then it begins to spread in other locations in California. Though the hepatitis A virus isn't typically deadly, it can affect the liver and cause inflammation and damage to the organ, according to the National Institutes of Health. Symptoms can include dark yellow urine, fever, joint pain, nausea, and vomiting. People with the infection usually get better on their own without treatment, the NIH says, but in some cases the infection can lead to liver failure, particularly in older adults or people who have other liver diseases. Hepatitis A spreads when small amounts of stool from an ill person contaminates objects like food or drink at another person that touches or ingests, and also sexual contact. It can spread that way as well. This can happen when people with the illness don't properly wash their hands after going to the bathroom, according to the CDC. In San Diego, officials have installed 66 portable hand washing machines in the streets to address the hygiene issue, with 100 more stations on the way. The virus can also spread among drug users, also through poor hygiene when sharing equipment related to illicit drug use, which they are doing. And this is why HIV is now spreading among drug users as well as hepatitis C. One reason specialists and doctors have a hard time stopping the spread of hepatitis A is it's a long incubation period. The time it takes a person to show symptoms after he or she is infected, which lasts on average 28 days, can be up to 50 days, Foster said. People infected today probably won't show symptoms for 4 weeks, Foster said. This makes it hard for people to recall what they were doing or who they had contact with at the time they were exposed to hepatitis, Foster said. And both of those factors help officials track and control outbreaks. It also means people don't yet appear sick, can infect others, causing more cases. And that's probably what's going on in San Diego right now, without a doubt. Another challenge in San Diego outbreak is the specific population at risk for contracting hepatitis A in this outbreak, people who are homeless or use illicit drugs. This is a population that has limited access to clean toilets and hand washing facilities, which are important to prevent the spread of hepatitis A. Additionally, vaccination, which I don't believe in. I don't believe in anything government wants to give you, especially if it's a free shot. With the hepatitis A vaccine is one of the key ways of prevent the infection, the CDC says. Yeah, always some vaccine, which I don't trust any shots that the government gives. I just don't. It takes time to set up systems in order to deliver vaccines, McDonald said. I think those systems are now strongly in place here to address the ongoing outbreak. And then you have another issue, ladies and gentlemen, of the people even showing up for the shots. Being that homeless people move around, how do you track them down to even give them the shots if they're, a lot of times the police will run them out of a location, which means now they're infecting a whole different part of the city. In general, hepatitis A vaccine is recommended for children at age 1, which no. Okay, moving on. Prior to the San Diego outbreak, the hepatitis A vaccine was not specifically recommended for people who are homeless, but now the state of California is recommending that this vaccine be given to the homeless population. CDC officials will also consider whether this should become a national recommendation. Well, it can become one. I'm not taking no shot from no government. But ladies and gentlemen, please tell me what you think. Please leave your comment and subscribe. And if you can, make a donation to my channel, please do. Peace, family. This is going to be a quick video. Somebody had asked me about how many people are hooked on illicit drugs and opioids. And this is a report that came out in the American Society of Addiction Medicine in 2016. It's always 1 year behind. So when 2018 comes, that's when you'll get the figures for 2017. Opioids are a class of drugs that include illicit drug heroin, as well as illicit prescription painkillers, oxycodone, hydrocodone, codeine, morphine, fentanyl, and others. Opioids are chemically related and interact with opioid receptors on nerve cells in the brain and nervous system to produce pleasurable effects and relieve pain. That's why so many people don't even want to get off. They will fight you before they get off of these drugs. I was reading heroin addicts said they love the high because they said it gives them that feeling like they are in love. And they love that feeling and they don't want to give it up. That's why so many of them fight when you suggest rehab to them. Addiction is a primary chronic and relapsing brain disease characterized by an individual pathologically pursuing reward and or relief by substance use and other behaviors. Of the 20.5 million Americans 12 or older had a substance abuse order in 2015. 2 million had a substance abuse disorder involving prescription pain relievers, and 591,000 had a substance abuse use disorder involving heroin. So when you add up all those figures, you have over 23 million people abusing drugs in the US. It's estimated that 23% of individuals who use heroin develop opioid addiction. Drug overdose is the leading cause of accidental death in the US, with 52,404 lethal drug overdoses in 2015. Opioid addiction is driving the epidemic, with 20,101 overdose deaths related to prescription pain relievers and 12,990 overdose deaths related to heroin in 2015. From 1999 to 2008, overdose death rates, sales, and substance use disorder treatment admissions related to prescription pain relievers increase in parallel. The overdose death rate in 2008 was nearly 4 times the 1999 rate. Sales of prescription pain relievers in 2010 were 4 times those in 1999. And the substance use disorder treatment admission rate in 2009 was 6 times the 1999 rate. In 2012, 259 million prescriptions were written for opioids, which is one than enough to give to every American adult their own bottle of pills. That's ridiculous. And America actually prescribes more than any other country on the entire planet. 4 in 5 new heroin users start out misusing prescription painkillers. 94% of respondents in a 2014 survey of people in treatment for opioid addiction said they chose to use heroin because prescription opioids were far more expensive and harder to obtain. Impact in special populations: adolescents 12 to 17 years old. In 2015, 276,000 adolescents were current non-medical users of pain relievers, with 122,000 having an addiction to prescription pain relievers. In 2015, an estimate of 21,000 adolescents had used heroin in the past year. An estimate of 5,000 were current users. Additionally, an estimate of 6,000 adolescents had a heroin use disorder in 2014. People also share their unused pain relievers, unaware of the dangers of non-medical opioid use. Most adolescents who misuse prescription pain relievers are given them for free by a friend or relative. The prescribing rates for prescription opioids among adolescents and young adults nearly doubled from 1994 to 2007. Women are more likely to have chronic pain be prescribed prescription pain relievers, be given higher doses, and use them for longer periods of time than men. Women may become dependent on prescription pain relievers more quickly than men. 48,000 women died of prescription pain reliever overdose between 1999 and 2010. All right. And I will leave the link to this article in the description box. All right, right here. Pain reliever overdose deaths among women increased more than 400% from 1999 to 2010, compared to 237% among men. Heroin overdose deaths among women have tripled in the last few years from 2010 through 2013. Female heroin overdoses increased from 0.4 to 1.2 per 100,000. Okay, so over 23 million abusing opioids and heroin in the US. And this is why you don't see any end in sight. That's a lot of people. You know, as I had stated before, that's a whole nation of people when you really think about it. There are countries that have fewer people than that. So tell me what you think, ladies and gentlemen. I will leave the link to the article in the description box. Please leave your comment and subscribe. And if you can make a donation to my channel, please do. And I want to thank everyone that have made a donation over the past few weeks. I really deeply appreciate it. And I just want you to know that I think you are the greatest subscribers a person could ever have. And I really mean that. Peace, family.
Ladies and gentlemen, please bear with me. I'm just battling with some allergy problems today, but I'm going to get through my videos the best that I can. Here's an article that came out October 4th, 2017 in the Washington Post, and I will leave the link to this article in the description box. Companies can't find workers to rebuild after Harvey and Irma. If you've been following my channel, and especially the drug news that I give, you know why this is happening. So let's get into this article. And the picture right here is actually Florida after Hurricane Irma. And you can see, you know, the rubble and debris and the houses blown apart still down on the ground. After Hurricane Irma pounded the Florida Keys, flooding waterfront homes and shredding docks, Brett Ekblom, phone kept ringing with homeowners desperate to rebuild, and fast. I'm hearing from people who have had quite a bit of destruction, said Ekblom, who owns Native Construction Contracting in Key Largo. On a typical day, he get one inquiry about a renovation. Now he's getting 4. But Ekblom is struggling to grow his staff of 20 who had a packed schedule before the storm hit the Keys and tossed seaweed everywhere. The chances of finding a skilled carpenter today, even with a Craigslist and ad offering higher than usual wages, slim to none, he said. From late August to mid-September, Hurricane Harvey and Irma destroyed properties across Texas and Florida, causing up to $200 billion in damages, according to an early estimate from Moody's Analytics. Maria brought further devastation, setting Puerto Rico's economy back decades. However, the island Commonwealth has $11.4 unemployment rate, which makes for a different labor situation. Economists fear the otherwise tight U.S. labor market could hold back reconstruction compared to previous disasters. In 2005, Hurricane Katrina brought about 108 billion in damages. Demand in New Orleans soared for carpenters, electricians, and plumbers. Immigrants flocked to the city for the blue-collar work. At the time, the country's unemployment rate was higher than 4.7% when Katrina struck, compared to today's 4.4%. More people were looking for jobs, particularly men. Male participation in the workforce was 73.3% in 2005, while today is 69.2%. Now, listen to this, ladies and gentlemen, because this is why they're having a problem rebuilding. Opioid use, now seen as a factor keeping men out of work, wasn't yet regarded as a crisis, and immigration restrictions weren't as tight. That made it easier for construction firms to find laborers in a hurry when it came time to fix things up. So because of the immigration situation in America and drugs, and we know the drug epidemic is off the charts, they are finding it hard to locate people to help rebuild. And it's not going to be just here, it's going to be in Puerto Rico too. Can you imagine that? They're having problems finding enough workers. And see, this also should shed light on how serious the drug problem is in America, where you got disasters that have taken place. There's not enough workers they can locate without a drug problem. What does that tell you? It tells you that not only is this a major drug problem, it's an economic problem. If you can't get everything rebuilt, then that lowers the economic in America if you can't get it all built. And I can tell you for a fact, they never even rebuilt parts of New Jersey after Hurricane Sandy. People never got their homes back. Never. But at the time, I did not put two and two together and realize they never could find enough workers to construct all those homes again. So they pretty much gave up. Okay, let's move on. In contrast, monthly job openings in the United States reach a record high this summer at 6.2 million. There were 6.2 million job openings in America they could not fill because people kept failing drug tests. Then came the hurricane season aftermath. Adding on to those vacancies in communities began to put themselves back together. Employers nationwide are complaining about a labor shortage, especially in traditionally male-dominated fields, such as manufacturing and construction. Business owners say a lack of skilled workers who can pass a drug test has stalled their growth. Ladies and gentlemen, just hold tight. I know, we talk about having our own and doing for ourselves, but let's be real, that still has not really happened in a big way. As time goes on, a lot of these business owners are going to come to the black community. You just watch. You just count on it. See, right now they are desperate to fill a lot of jobs with white people, and they are simply not finding them because of the drug plague in the country. And they wanted to use immigrants. Okay, well, if we can't use white workers, we'll just get the next best thing, the immigrants. That ain't working out so well either. That's why these jobs are sitting there. If immigrants was the real answer to America's problem, you wouldn't hear a peep out of these people whining. The fact that they're whining is telling you immigrants ain't the answer either. They're going to come back to the original man and women of this country to fill these slots. Right now, they have too much pride to do it. I promise you, when they realize their businesses are going to sink, they ain't going to have no more problem with you. They'll choose money over falling over these drug addicts. Mark my word. You're going to see a major turnaround. Joe Brusulas, chief economic at RSM, said post-hurricane reconstruction will prove especially challenging because of the tight labor market. There is not a significant surplus of labor ready to re-enter the workforce to take relatively higher paying construction jobs that will be available in Houston and across much of Florida, he wrote in an analysis ahead of Friday's job report. While it's understandable that the focus is still on human costs to hurricanes in Texas, Florida, and the Caribbean U.S., the likely economic narrative going forward will be, where are all the workers necessary to rebuild? Charles Chuck Mason Jr., president of Mason Construction in Beaumont, Texas, said people are still trying to dry out their houses after Harvey. Starting work while the walls and floors are still damp, he explained, would seal in mold. It would be nice if black men could come together at this very moment and form construction companies and go down in these areas where they need rebuilding. This is the time to seize that opportunity, especially for our black men. I think this would be phenomenal if you could get down there and show you got enough workers to get everything done. So church halls remain full of people sleeping on on donated mattresses. This is going to be the biggest demand probably ever in this area for housing trade, he said. And there's a severe shortage of qualified workers. You know what? There are no workers that can get it done better than black men. I mean, I'm sorry, but it's the truth. It's the truth. Houston, about 85 miles east of Beaumont, has swept up many of the area's craftsmen, he said. Mason Jr., 67, having trouble hiring just one more carpenter to help clean up the area's petroleum plants. He's looking for an extra 25. When you add in all the demand in Florida, there's going to be a shortage nationwide of people with those skills, he said. The labor shortage is already boosting salaries. Median pay for construction workers in the United States is 16 an hour, according to the Bureau of Labor Statistics. Elblom, who runs the Key Largo construction company, said he's offering between 17 and 20 an hour. So, depending on experience, he's looking for at least 10 more workers. That's a shame. They're not even looking for that many, and they're struggling to find these people because they keep coming, the people that are coming forward are all junkies, and they don't want them. Many are still fixing their own homes. Elkblom cleared a tree off a neighbor's roof for free. Now his staff faces sand all over construction sites, tipped porta potties, flipped dumpsters, broken gates, trash roofs, and soaked basements. Almost every dock in the entire key is gone, he said. We're just getting started. Ladies and gentlemen, this labor force problem has been bad for a few years. But now that these disasters have struck and you now got another potential one over the weekend, woo, I don't know what's going on. But is it me, or do you see how many things are going wrong since Trump been in office? And I mean, I don't mean to make things up, but I'm just telling you guys, I just see so many things have gone wrong, and he hasn't even been in there a year. And just look at how many things have gone wrong after the eclipse. The eclipse was probably maybe a little over a month ago, and it just seems like it's been one disaster after the next after the eclipse. As I stated to you before, this drug plague, this is going to be one of the major things that's going to economically cripple America. We're heading in that direction now. What do you do when you have 23 million people that are hooked on opioids and heroin in your country? They're going to bankrupt the place. Because right now they are taking from society and they're not making any contribution at all. But if they want to continue to call it a public health issue, you're going to see this labor force problem just completely implode after a while. That's what's going to happen. They ain't going to fix this, ladies and gentlemen. They're not. They're not going to fix this. And some of these companies are so damn racist, they don't want black labor. They'll sit there and just keep trying until they can find a needle in the haystack, white guy, to bring in. But hey, it's their wallet. Please tell me what you think, ladies and gentlemen. Please leave your comment and subscribe. And if you can, make a donation to my channel. Please do. Peace, family. Article that came out in Newsmax October 3rd, 2017. Government's attempt to fix could be worsening opioid plague. The opioid plague in America is real. It is lethal, and it may be killing the nice
family that lives next door to you. More people are dying of opioid overdoses than died of AIDS in the height of the epidemic. The death toll is nearly twice that from global terrorism. The crisis is so bad that it seems to be raining needles. Last March in San Francisco, 13,000 discarded syringes were collected compared to 2,900 in March of 2016. Coroners are experiencing personnel shortages and equipment failures across the U.S. In Berkeley County, West Virginia, 2/3 of the emergency medication budget is now spent on Narcan used to treat overdoses. Doctors are getting blamed. More potent oral drugs became available, and guidelines for using them in chronic pain liberalized in the pain decade of the 1990s. So why are we having the plague now when medical opinion is shifting in the opposite direction? Between 1999 and 2011, annual opioid deaths nearly tripled from 8,048 to 22,784. And the trend is accelerating, probably not coincidentally. Participating in the U.S. labor force started to decline at the same time, dropping to an all-time low of 62.4% in 2015. While many people evidently have trouble finding a job, one building contractor said he has trouble finding workers who could pass a drug test and it did not have a criminal record. The decades-long war on drugs has obviously failed. Some recommended legalization to reduce the profits from illicit drugs. That option is being tried for marijuana in some states. The odor of maturing marijuana plants in rural Oregon, has become so pervasive that people worry about getting a secondhand high. The drug cartel's profit did suffer. So the bottom line is the heroin that's coming in from Mexico is supposed to be of a much purer quality, and it's cheaper than OxyContin. So of course, the cheaper the drug, the more you're going to draw people to it. Really, that's the bottom line. Legalizing what was formerly called the gateway drug obviously hasn't reduced heroin use. The new gateway is now said to be prescription painkillers, and the chief villain are claimed to be legal pharmaceutical manufacturers, doctors, and pharmacists. Because the multiplying regulations and physician prosecutions, patients who urgently need pain relief are being left in agony, but the overdoses continue to mount, mostly on drugs not stocked at Walgreens, such as heroin laced with fentanyl, an extremely potent synthetic opioid. What's going on? On the demand side, Americans are well indoctrinated by the sea of advertising about taking a pill for every ill. Nearly 70% of Americans take at least one prescription drug. And I'm not shocked. I am not shocked, y'all. I mean, America gives out probably billions in drugs every year to its citizens. And that's probably not, I'm probably undercounting it by saying that. It's outrageous how many drugs are prescribed in this country. As Paul Harvey predicted in his classic 1965 monologue, "If I Were the Devil," these trends would lead to metal detectors and drug-sniffing dogs in school. On the supply side, profits are enormous. The largest seizure to date of 63.8 kilos of powder fentanyl, plus 30,000 counterfeit tablets found in a tractor-trailer rig at a checkpoint near Yuma, Arizona. had a street value of 1.2 billion. Most of the fentanyl comes from China, a turnabout from the Opium Wars. In the 18th and 19th century, the British smuggled Indian opioid into China, selling 1,400 tons per year. In 1838, writes Dr. Marilyn Singleton, with devastating effects on the Chinese economy and political stability. And that's exactly what's happening here now. This, like I said, this plague is going to be one of the reasons why America will collapse economically. This will be one of the reasons why it will, and they can't blame it on all the usual stuff, because believe me, the money they're pouring into this drug plague exceeds what they're putting into Medicaid, Medicare, and even welfare. It has long superseded those things. America's rival and enemies clearly benefit from the deadly craving that kills and disables a large portion of its U.S. population while imposing huge cost on the economy, also benefiting the multi-billion-dollar treatment industry, including the manufacturers of drugs used in medically aided treatment. Where are the drug-sniffing dogs in schools where children are known to be getting addicted? And if taxi drivers know where drug trades are happening, the police know too, and yet they continue. Huge money laundering operations by the transnational drug cartels continue for years in upscale Florida suburbs despite undercover penetration by police, while pouring billions into costly treatment methods with 1 year failure rate of around 90%. And see, I was reading that the average drug addict, when they go through rehab, 90% of them fall off the bandwagon within 1 week after they get out of rehab. So really, is it worth pouring all that money into treatment? I don't know, but I know it's going to break this government. The government continues to provide free opioid prescriptions to Medicare and Medicaid enrollees. Some of them sell them on the streets, and the Massachusetts Attorney General shut down a network of sobriety-centric primary care-based clinics with an astonishing high success rate and imprisoned the founder, Dr., and I'm not saying that name. Last name is Kishore. I can say that. His alleged crime, ordering too many urine tests. Wow, they put him in jail for that. Wait a minute, he went to jail for ordering too many urine tests. Oh my God. Is there any way that such massive international trafficking could thrive without some level of political protection? And is the government attempt to remedy the problem making it worse? This government can't make this problem better because it is far out of hand. It's millions and millions of people abusing drugs in America now. How do you get that under control? You really can't. They're really just going through the motions and making it seem like they're doing something, but they're not putting a dent in this plague at all. And it's quite obvious that they're not. Please tell me what you think, ladies and gentlemen. Please leave your comment and subscribe. And if you can make a donation to my channel, please do. Peace, family. Done stories on criminal activity that drug addicts do. I haven't done these recently, but I did one where they were robbing banks, robbing pharmacies and supermarkets. And this is what happens when they have a drug habit. Sooner or later, they run out of money, they run out of the drug, and they turn to crime. And in many cases, these crimes because what they'll do is they'll break into homes looking for any item they can take to a pawn shop. And now the new thing is they go to, you know how sometimes they'll have an open house for a home that's up for sale? Well, what they're doing now, ladies and gentlemen, is they go through the medicine cabinet while they're touring through the house to steal the owner's medication. That's a new thing that they're doing now. So, I mean, they're coming up with more craftier ways to rob places. This is Oakville, Burlington, and you're going to see people up in Canada are doing the same thing they're doing down here in the US. All right, so this is a robbery, two men that robbed a pharmacy. Okay, and the pharmacy is called Shoppers Drug Mart. And this is the first guy, and these guys were together. This is the second. And they were after mainly opioids, narcotics. And they apparently got caught. And this is what they do. And these guys are going there armed, fully armed with guns, which make what they're doing a felony. So they can't even count this as a drug crime. All right, and here's robbers at a pharmacy called Atmore Pharmacy in Alabama. Let me go ahead and play this video.
Believe the recent pharmacy robberies in several area cities may be a part of a network of criminals targeting pharmacies. Two armed men stormed an Atmore Walgreens Tuesday night, just minutes before closing. This is surveillance video. The suspects you see there are carrying a tire iron and a gun, wearing dark clothes and masks. Atmore police say they forced the employees into an office, took prescription pills and cash before taking off.
Gosh. They were well equipped and well trained for what they was going to do. You can tell that.
I was just shocked. I was shocked, Yeah, because this don't normally happen around here, I was shocked.
That same store was burglarized back in May. Officials say this video is very similar to an armed robbery at a Walgreens in Grand Bay, May 17th. Detectives say it's likely the robbery in Grand Bay and this one in Atmore are connected as part of a network of criminals targeting pharmacies after hours and just minutes before closing while employees are present.
Okay. All right, and this article came out on the 25th of September, and I'm telling you, there's a whole bunch of these that come out every week from different pharmacies all around the country that get robbed. This is another one in Canada, Nova Scotia, and they're also, again, have a drug problem, and these junkies are going to these pharmacies and robbing it of the narcotics up there. And you can see some of the firearms that they retrieved from some of these pharmacy robberies. I mean, this is serious. And as long as the drug problem is going strong, these robberies will continue to go strong as well. Here's a guy that robbed a CVS twice. And this is down in Richmond, Virginia. And here he is right here. His name is Jesse A. Riddell, 28 years old. He apparently robbed the same pharmacy twice. During his robberies, the robberies occurred on December 11th and December 20th, with Riddle robbing the store of $322 the first time and $102 the second time. The citation notes that Riddle admit to the robbery, stating that he wanted money to support his heroin addiction and to buy Christmas presents for his son. Well, he got 10 years in prison, and it don't look like that's going to be happening for this guy. All right, here's another robbery, and this one is, and this just to show you how worldwide these pharmacy robberies. This one is actually in Bahrain. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and play this robbery. So you can see this is a worldwide problem with the drug addiction and the robberies. عندك نظارة هي عندي. ايه اللي بتيجي اي حد بيتعالج الحته كلها محلات اصلا ممكن تكون هلا هلا حبيبي. All right, so again, just to show you, this drug problem is worldwide. It's worldwide. All right, here is one in Palm Beach, and this is September 22nd, 2017. All right, and you can see the guy right here. He's identified as Michael Prouty, 33 years old. And it don't look like they caught this guy, but he's wanted for a string of strong armed robbery in Boynton Beach. And it looked like it was 4:50 p.m. and he went in and robbed this pharmacy. And it looks like he took money from the cash register. Okay. And like I said, most of the time these guys are drug addicts, and that's why they're robbing the pharmacies in the first place. So, ladies and gentlemen, some things never ever change. And as you can see, the drug plague and the crimes associated with the drug plague is not going anywhere. I will leave the link to all of these articles in the description box. Please leave your comment and subscribe. And if you can donate to my channel, please do. Peace, family.
Well, this is one I haven't done in a long time. There's an article on Gray Death that came on NBC rightnow.com, October 2nd, 2017. Gray Death. A new mixture of drugs now threatens the lives of first responders. I'm going to go ahead and play this video.
Stay up to speed with the latest in high school sports. Tuesday night at 7 is your home for Prep Countdown on SWX. Our expert analysts break down all the stats for you. Join co-hosts Rob Jesselson and Kelly Hinsett, covering the biggest sports storylines and counting down to the action ahead with coach and player interviews and the week's top highlights. Prep Countdown on SWX, Tuesday nights at 7. Brought to you by Rustine RV, A1 Refrigeration, and more furniture for less. Health Alert, brought to you by Sunnyside Community Hospital and Clinics.
In your health alert tonight, 91 people die every day nationwide from overdosing on opioids like heroin, fentanyl, prescription painkillers, and even elephant tranquilizers.
Now, drug dealers are making a deadly mixture of these drugs that's being called Gray Death. As Caitlin Miller reports, it's so strong you don't even have to take it to be at risk.
911, 819 on Fire 5.
Mel Holtz knew he wanted to be a firefighter when he was just a kid.
I started early on. Just kind of got hooked. This is our monitor. This is how we're going to get patient vitals.
Now he's logged 14 years as a first responder. His department takes about 700 calls a year, from fires to traffic accidents and medical calls.
So what have you been taking today, sir?
In this training exercise, Holtz and his team work on another firefighter, but in the field they're seeing more patients who are dealing with real overdoses.
The calls have changed. The drug use has seen an uptick.
And there's a scary new drug that's putting these first responders at risk.
Bottom line, my concern is that it's going to kill people.
James McCubbin, Deputy Missoula County Attorney, is prosecuting his first case dealing with gray death, a dangerous mix of drugs including heroin and some form of other opioid like fentanyl or carfentanil, a drug so strong it's used as an elephant tranquilizer.
You never really know what you're getting with this.
Even for scientists like Scott Larson, it is extremely difficult to identify and extremely dangerous.
And it's not just addicts who need to be concerned about gray death. It is so strong that it can be absorbed through skin and even through the air. Something as simple as washing your hands could put you at risk.
If there's a drug user with fentanyl in a public restroom or something like that, and then a small child can go in and just put their hand on the sink and get an overdose.
First responders are at especially high risk. A police officer in Ohio recently overdosed when trace amounts of gray death got on his uniform. Police Detective Eddie McLean tells me departments across the region are changing their policies to keep their officers from accidentally overdosing.
It's scary enough to us that we're requesting our officers not conduct field tests on it.
And even small departments are stocking up on Narcan, a nasal spray that counteracts the effects of an opioid overdose. It's a last-line defense to make sure first responders like Mel make it home safe to their families. I'm Caitlin Miller, KHQ Local News.
Okay. You know,
Stay up to speed.
I hate when they say that. Oh, they want to make it home to their families. Everybody on the planet want to make it home to their families. I never met anybody that want anything less when they're on their way home. You know, it's not just first responders and cops that want that, and they make it seem like that's the golden phrase for them. I don't know. All right, ladies and gentlemen, so you can see this is actually Montana where they're seeing the gray death, but we know it's spread out in other parts of the country as well. So gray death is very dangerous. It's a drug that you don't necessarily have to even take in order to feel the effects of overdose. If you remember, it's a mixture of heroin, fentanyl, carfentanil, and they call it gray death because it looks like concrete when you look at it. And this particular drug can pass through your skin. You can inhale it. You don't necessarily have to take this drug at all in order to feel the effects or even die from it. So tell me what you think, ladies and gentlemen. Please leave your comment and subscribe. And if you can make a donation to my channel, please do. Peace, family. Okay, here's an article that just came out September 29th, 2017. Declining birth rate in Wisconsin, U.S. could be good or bad. All right. Wisconsin birth rate declined in the past decade, and the national birth rate hit a record low last year, causing some to worry about workforce and economic instability, while others applaud a dramatic drop in births to teens. If people are having fewer, there's going to be a smaller pool entering the labor force 20 to 25 years down the road, said David Egan Robertson, a demographer at UW Wisconsin Applied Population Laboratory. But much of the decrease in the birth rate is driven by a significant drop in births to teens, which most consider a good thing. Many millennials are entering the peak fertility years of their late 20s and early 30s. So they could boost the birth rate soon, but millennials, they're not quite as interested in giving birth now. It's a positive thing, said Dr. Deb E. Rental, UW Madison Associate Professor. All right, so the state had 66,496 births last year, a rate of 61.3 births per thousand females ages 15 to 44, according to the State Department of Health Services. That's down from 72,757 births and a rate of 64.5 in 2007. Nationally, the rate dipped to 62.0 last year, a record low, with 3.9 million births. There were 4.1 million fewer babies born from 2008 to 2016. That expected base on previous birth rates, according to Kenneth Johnson, a demographer at the University of New Hampshire. At average of 1.85 births per woman, Wisconsin and the United States are below the replacement level of 2.1 births per woman, the level at which a generation can replace itself, Egan Robertson said. So we know that just from, the fact that 5,000 from a 1 year period, that you can't replace it. You got to think about it, even 20 years from now, when those 5,000 people get of working age, they can't do every job out here in the U.S. That's not enough. They're going to have a big problem. That could cause problems in the workforce and the economy in future years, along with challenges to programs such as Social Security, he said. However, immigration offset slow native population growth in the U.S. more than in places like Japan and parts of Europe. So the concerns aren't as great here. Yes, they are. That's why they're acting out. Tell who got interviewed for this article. Okay, countries without active immigration are facing stagnant population totals, Egan Robertson said. Demographics say the Great Recession from December 2007 to June 2009 spurred the decline in the state and national birth rates starting in 2008. Birth rates typically go up after recessions end, but that hasn't happened this time, Egan Robertson said. This is likely because of the continuing drop in births to teens and women waiting longer to have children, he said. Oh, don't want to blame it on the genetics, huh? Because we know that's what it is. There were 2,807 births to females between the ages of 15 to 19 in Wisconsin last year, for a rate of 15.0 per 1,000 females that age. The rate has dropped 53% since 2007 and 66% since its peak in 1991. So they've been on a decline, ladies and gentlemen, for decades. This didn't just start. It really, from what I was reading, the decline really started in the 50s, and it went down from there. It's probably related, at least in part, to better access to effective birth control. The birth rate has been going up in Wisconsin among women in their late 20s and 30s. If this continues among the millennium, people born between 1992 and 2000, some say up to 2004, that could boost the birth rate overall. That's not going to do them any good, but let's go ahead. Older parents generally have more secure lives, which is better for children. The kids born will be more successful ultimately, so we could expect to see more robust workforce for that reason. Yeah, right. Okay. Nationwide, America is not having a lot of children, and it's a fact. It's been documented. It's a fact. It's a reason why many of these people are acting out and acting so crazy out here. And you can see other articles based on what I had told you about in the past. The white population on this earth is getting older, okay? And all of the other populations on the planet are younger. And this is just another example of that. Map where Europe's population is moving, aging, and finding work. And the population among the Europeans is aging. And you see right here, birth rates low and lower. So this is a phenomena that's going on nationwide. And right now, the Europeans are all up in arms because they're fighting all of the immigrants and migrants that are going there, and they're outnumbering the white European now. And of course, they're petrified of that happening in America because this is why Trump is coming up with all these travel bans and all that crap, because they're petrified of all that happening here. So ultimately, the population's got to change. It's inevitable. I mean, all of this paranoia is just not going to change a thing in the long run. But I'm just going to go ahead and, oh, there is one more I wanted you to see. Here's another one. Finland birth rate plummets to its lowest level in nearly 150 years. See, this is worldwide. This is worldwide. This is not just a U.S. thing. Okay, Finland's birth rate is continuing to fall and has reached its lowest level in 148 years. The number of children born has declined gradually over the last 6 years, with 52,814 babies born in 2016, a figure down by 2,658 on the previous year, according to Statistics Finland. So, of course, it's frightening to them. It's frightening. You know, so this is a phenomena that's global, but it's not among all groups on the earth. It's mainly hitting your Caucasoids. No matter where they are in this world, they are the ones with the low birth rate, especially in Europe and the US and Canada, you know, Australia. Okay. Please leave your comment and subscribe. And if you can donate to my channel, please do. Peace, family.
Let's get some more of that good old American drug history. The greatest drug fiends in the world, an American opioid crisis in 1908. See, in 1908, ladies and gentlemen, Black people were sharecropping. Black women were working domestically and on bogus charges like vagrancy and not having a job and laughing out loud in public. You know, the
crimes that we're told we're doing all the time. While we were in hard labor, our white counterparts were getting high. They were working hard at getting high. But let's get into this great American white bread history. In this illustration of McClure magazine story, a woman left displays her needle marks. Oh man, oh man. Genteel women with easy access to doctors and drugs made up the majority of late 19th century addicts. She's gazing down at the marks on her arm, ladies and gentlemen, working hard at getting high. The president, a swaggering populist from New York, was worried that a national crisis of opiates addiction was weakening America and diminishing its greatness that it never had. So, in 1908, Teddy Roosevelt appointed a handsome doctor with a handlebar mustache. Yeah, right. He probably looked like a monkey with a mustache. Hamilton Wright to be the nation's first opium commissioner. See, they had to do the same thing back then as they do now, because so many of these caucasoids were just straight up junkies. We were working hard. They were working hard at getting high. Americans, right warned, have become the greatest drug